Tom Brady's already retired 2 times, but he's been threatening that he might just make it a 3rd. On the Deep Cut podcast with some guy named Vic Blends, Brady didn't rule out a possible return to the NFL, name-dropping both his old New England Patriots team and the franchise he hopes to become a minority owner in, the Las Vegas Raiders. Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk wrote recently that after announcing his retirement, he talked about still wanting to play and didn't want to be frustrated by the realization he could do a better job than the guys who are still out there. After seeing so many QB1s go down last year and being forced to watch the likes of Jake Browning and Mason Rudolph get some buzz for their performances, I can't blame the GOAT for thinking he might have hung it up a little too early. But maybe there was no better example to what Brady watched and could have envisioned himself doing than what Joe Flacco accomplished in his 5 games with the Cleveland Browns at the end of last season. He went 4-1, putting up 323 yards per game and 13 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, helping lead the Browns into the postseason. Cleveland did go on to get cooked in their wildcard game against Houston, where Flacco threw 2 interceptions, including an 82-yard pick 6. I can imagine Brady watching, shaking his head, thinking, if that were me out there, things would have been different. In this video, we'll look at where Brady's final year would have stacked up in 2023, the pros and cons of a return, and possible landing spots. Let's dive a little deeper into what Florio mentioned in his article. Where does TB12 stack up? In his quasi-final year, Brady was 18th in passer rating, 3rd in passing yards, tied for 8th in passing touchdowns, 9th in success rate, and tied for 2nd in game-winning drives with 5 behind only Kirk Cousins' 8. The numbers were all fine, but we should give some more context here. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers put a lot of pressure on him throughout the season as they finished 1st in the league in passing attempts and last in rushing attempts. Meanwhile, their offensive line, which had been a solid unit in years before, went into disarray before the season started as guard Alex Cappa went to Cincinnati, Ali Marpet retired, and center Ryan Jensen suffered a knee injury. Still, Brady isn't exempt from criticism. The eye test during that year showed a highly competent quarterback, but one that wasn't as extraordinary as he'd been before. And with the Bucs giving him so many dropbacks, it became obvious that he just looked scared to hang in the pocket and take hits. He had the shortest time to throw at just 2.3 seconds, which was both the fastest in the league that year and the fastest of his career. And this was despite him being under pressure and blitzed less often in 22 than he was in previous years where his time to throw was closer to 2.5 or 2.6 seconds. There's an argument that his skittishness would have been less apparent had the Bucs had a better run game and consistent offensive line. The situation obviously would have been different had he played in 2023, but here's where he would have fallen if everything was the same. 19th in passer rating, just above Joe Flacco, 1st in passing yards, tied for 10th in passing touchdowns, 6th in success rate, and tied for 1st in game-winning drives. It's not a legendary season, but it's also totally serviceable. Especially in a year where so many teams were forced to turn to backups, getting that production out of someone with a football IQ and experience that he has would make you feel like you had a chance in every game. I also wanted to look into what the pros and cons of a Tom Brady return would bring. When I first sat down to think about this, I thought I'd end up with a pretty big list, but I think it really only boils down to a couple of things. I have 2 major points on the pro side. First, he would further cement his legacy. He's already the NFL's leader in quarterback wins, passing yards, completions, touchdowns, and game-winning drives. Playing another year would only make these records harder to break. Funnily enough though, even in an age 47 season, he still wouldn't be the oldest player to complete a pass in the NFL. That honor belongs to George Blanda, who was 48 during his final season in 1975. And second, he would get to have a potentially distraction-free retirement tour season if that's what he wanted. His 2022 season was made complicated by news of his divorce and endorsement of FTX before its collapse.
You just need FTX!
I don't think Brady would ever label a football season as a retirement tour for himself, but a final year without all the extracurriculars going on around him would ultimately make for a better sunset on his career. As for the cons, first and foremost, a final season could leave a very sour taste in our mouths. What if he's, well, bad. It wouldn't change what we think of him in totality, but it may be one of those things we just never mention when we talk about him. Something that people find on Pro Football Reference years and years later and say, wait, Brady played in 24 for who? Then again, it wasn't like he left on a high note last time around either. The Bucs were crushed by the Dallas Cowboys in the 2023 wild card, which included a Brady interception on the Dallas 5-yard line early in the second. Afterward, people like Ryan Clark took to Twitter and asked an honest question. Would you really want Brady as your QB1 next year? Second, and somewhat connected, there's a possibility that Brady suffers a nasty injury and what could have been his final year is cut short. It would be a depressing image to see the GOAT carted off in his final NFL game. Not to put that bad energy out there, but the guy would be 47. It's a very real possibility. And lastly, he'd have to retire a third time, which in the grand scheme of things really isn't a big deal, but it's a little too Brett Favre if you ask me. It feels like, to me at least, trying to make Tom Brady your starter for the whole season has a better chance to lead to that really depressing outcome. While there is a chance he leads some team to the playoffs and has a great final full year, I think there's more opportunity for disaster, injury, benching, or just frustrations with his coaches and teammates. Now, calling Brady to lead your contender for the end of the season feels a lot better of a proposition for all parties involved. He's essentially Joe Flacco then, only I doubt he'd fly economy to his next stop. There's just less commitment on both sides. The organization is making a move they can stand behind in a moment of desperation, while Brady will come to a solid roster that's already winning and have a shortened season to play in games that matter, the way we want to remember him. If he gets into the postseason and makes a run, fantastic. If he flames out, well, looks like he was ready for retirement anyways. The team will go into the next season with their original starter back, and Brady will be in the broadcast booth telling stories about last year. Now let's talk possible landing spots for Brady. He referenced both the Raiders and Patriots, so let's go into those first. The Raiders make sense since Brady has been connected to the organization and was reportedly advising the club behind the scenes, including in their decision to hire Antonio Pierce as the full-time coach. They have a superstar receiver in Davante Adams, and although Aiden O'Connell was a fun story, he doesn't seem like the long-term answer at quarterback for the franchise. And with the number 13 pick in this year's draft, the Raiders may not be able to draft a guy they actually love. Brady could potentially slot in as a gap starter here. The New England one was a little weirder to me. No doubt, it would be very cool to see him in a Patriots jersey again and give the fans some closure, but the quarterback situation and timeline seem odd to me. They have the number 3 pick in the draft and will likely select a quarterback and also sign Jacoby Brissett, who has been a fine spot starter and backup. For this to work out, the Patriots would have to want to do a retirement tour with Brady because I don't think they'll be in contention at the end of next year. As for other options and ones that could be suited for a late season call, I want to first mention the 49ers. They're happy with Brock Purdy, but if he goes down with an injury, they currently only have Brandon Allen as the other quarterback on the roster. With a great team overall and a high-profile head coach in Kyle Shanahan, Brady would fit into a system that will support him with a good running game, defense, and super talented receivers to throw to. I also like Miami. Tua is probably the guy, but if he gets injured, the Fins would be left with Skylar Thompson as it stands now. Much like San Francisco, the Dolphins and Mike McDaniel would have a great system for Brady to fit into. They're built on timing with elite receivers and a good line, and Tua gets the ball out faster than just about anyone in the league, including a 2.33 time to throw last season, just above Brady's 2.3 seconds in 22. And lastly, I wanted to mention Cleveland for the fact it would be hilarious. It would mean that in back-to-back years, they've had to turn to a nearly out-of-the-league QB to save their season. Brady would actually be the next Joe Flacco. But with the Browns signing of Jameis Winston this offseason, it seems unlikely they'd be in need of Brady's services late. I also wanted to throw out one more full season option, the Denver Broncos. They're desperate for a quarterback after getting rid of Russell Wilson and possibly trotting out Jared Stidham for the season. They're an okay team and one that Brady could potentially lift up alongside head coach Sean Payton, but to be honest, I don't love the idea and I think it could go south quickly. Whether you call him TB12 or Touchdown Tom, or you're one of the weirdos that calls him the Pharaoh or Sir, Tom Brady is the undeniable football GOAT. During that podcast with Vic Blends, Brady referenced the GOAT of basketball, Michael Jordan, and his return to the NBA after retirement. And I thought that was a funny thing to think about. Did he mean when MJ retired to play baseball for a year and then returned to go on the historic three-peat run? Or did he mean when he returned to play for the Washington Wizards for a couple years before ultimately hanging it up? Granted, Jordan could still play when he was on the Wiz, but may have ultimately been more of an attraction to put meat in seats than a piece on a real contender. In any case, those 2 years are usually footnotes on Jordan's legacy. Which way would a Brady return be remembered? When I first heard about him teasing a return, I rolled my eyes and initially thought I'd make a video about why he shouldn't. But then I thought about it more, and I think the NFL is ultimately better with Brady in it, and getting one more season, even if it's just a few games, are moments we should really value. And even though I do think an actual return is highly unlikely, I've suddenly begun crossing my fingers for it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please remember to give it a like if you did enjoy it, and please consider subscribing to the channel so you can catch the next one. Thanks, bye.